everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this webinar. We are still waiting few minutes before we will start. And we will try to start on time. So it's 11. So welcome everyone. I think some people will join over the last few minutes coming. We welcome to this webinar about this topic, what impact does engagement for transparency have on the European charcoal market. Before going through the agenda, I just want to repeat the role of this webinar. So this webinar is kind of meetings, it's under a meeting session. So please, as you already did, unmute yourself. This webinar will be also recorded. And if you have some questions, you can use the chat to ask the questions. So the webinar, we will do a presentation, about 45 minutes presentation. And then we'll have a 15 minutes talk and question and exchange about the different topic we covered over this webinar. So the speaker will be in the agenda. The speaker will be to present the Earthform Charcoal Program. You will have Camille, who joined the charcoal team recently. You have also Robin, 4 years field trip experience in the charcoal team, and you will have Lucas, many of you already know as well, who joined the charcoal program 2.5 years ago. So regarding the agenda, we will start by looking at the agenda. Please, Lucas. Many thanks. We'll start by, so in the introduction, we will talk about our approach, the Earthform approach. Who is Earthform? Robin will present who is Earthform, who we are, and Camille will present the stakes of the charcoal, what we call responsible charcoal as well, and I will present a little bit more our approach. Then Lucas will present in detail the market trends, the analysis of the market trends, and also the recent charcoal bags analysis we did with a strong focus on France and Germany over the last 5 years. Then we talk a bit about innovation in 2021, the update on the Charcoal Transparency Initiative and the survey, and then we will have a call for action where we have a recommendation on transparency for industry and institution. And then during the last 15 minutes, we will talk and have an open exchange about the different topics we covered. So I hand it over to Robin right now to talk, to present briefly to the one who doesn't know us, who is Earthform.
Thank you, Pierre-Olivier. Yes, so whoever here does not know Earthworm Foundation, we used to be called the Forest Trust, or TFT. We are a global nonprofit organization whose goal is to positively impact the relationship between people and nature. So our work is with member companies on their supply chains all over the world. We are a field-based organization founded in 1999 by Scott Poynton, an Australian forester. We have over 100 members and partners, which we call members and partner companies. We have expertise on social and environmental issues, and we work all across the globe. Our main focus is on supply chains, on member supply chains, on environmental and social issues. So we focus on the whole supply chain from the farmer to the end consumer, and with all the relevant stakeholders in between. We help define policies that state what a company wants for its products based on our members' values. We support our members on transparency, traceability, monitoring, and verification. And as I said before, we specialize with field presence in critical landscapes. So we are based all across the world, as I also mentioned before. As you can see on this map, we're in all 5 continents, and our HQ is in Switzerland, in Nyon. We focus on many different commodities, including charcoal as being a forest product commodity, but also palm oil, coconut, cocoa, and all the others you see here. I won't spend too much time on this.
Thank you, Ruben. So just to present a little bit the different impact we had in the charcoal program over the last years. So we work with, as Ruben mentioned, we are a member-based organization. So we work with members, we work with partners together. And since 2014, we did over 200 field visits in 15, 14 countries. We also invented the charcoal methodology, charcoal bags analysis methodology in 2015, and we did every year charcoal bags analysis as well. And 2 years ago, we recently launched a charcoal transparency initiative, and last year we launched a charcoal transparency survey in order to enable everyone to give his level of transparency. But we will talk a little bit more in detail during all this presentation. Now I will hand it over to Camille to present you the challenge around charcoal.
Thank you, Pierre-Olivier. Yeah, so during the production of charcoal, there are lots of different stakes and issues that can arise. So first of all, to produce the environmental challenges that are associated with the charcoal production are environmental ones, because there is a very high conversion rate from wood into actual charcoal. It requires between 4 and 12 tons of charcoal of wood to produce 1 ton of charcoal. So if the forest is poorly managed, it's obviously linked with the forest degradation issues. And also producing charcoal with inefficient technologies will lead to greenhouse gas emissions. So in lots of places, it's very traditional technologies are being used, and so that has environmental consequences. The next type of issues will be social ones. The charcoal supply chain is characterized by a high level of informality, and so it is unfortunately not uncommon to witness forced labor and human rights violation during the wood cutting and also charcoal production itself. Further, land use conflicts may arise over land title dispute and just use of the available resources. And furthermore, in terms of social problems, during the charcoal production process, occupational health and safety are often missing, which put workers at risk a lot of the time. Then we have economic stakes. Again, because of the informality of the charcoal supply chain and power imbalances, especially at the upper end of the supply chains, it's quite common to witness unfair remuneration practices in some parts of the world, and also problems with risk of debt bondage. And further, in many countries, there is an absence of legal regulation to regulate the production process and or enforcement capacities. that would have been able to regulate this a little bit better. There is the charcoal supply chain is also characterized by very high levels of opacity. So the numbers that you can see on the map are annual production in different regions of the world. And as you can see, Europe is a pretty small producer with only 300,000 tons of charcoal produced annually. However, the European consumption is actually 1 million tons. And so there is a 700,000 ton difference between its production and its consumption. And therefore, the European market is highly dependent on imports from across the globe. However, charcoal is not included in the European timber regulation legislation, which means that this imported charcoal could well be associated with illegal logging activities, and but there is not very little ways to know where the charcoal actually comes from and if it's from legal sources. Yeah, moving on to the next slide. And so this all has to do with a lack of transparency in the charcoal supply chain. Like I was saying, charcoal is not included in the EUTR. There is no legal obligation to declare wood species that was used to produce the charcoal. And also there is no legal obligation to declare the country of origin. And all of this lack of obligation leads to missing link between the actual charcoal and the carbonization place, which in turns lead to a lack of consumer awareness, which prevents them from making informed decision. And so, for instance, in 2021, in France, in the bags that we analyzed in France and Germany, we found that 62% of charcoal bags did not declare either wood species or a country of origin. So yeah, so now, and this is all to do because of the supply chain complexity, and I will now leave my colleague explain the supply chain complexity.
Many thanks, Camille. Indeed, there are a lot of opacity on this market. And all the strategy of Earthworm was to bring more transparency all over the supply chain. So here we will see, we would like to present you a little bit the supply chain. So you see on the left side the retailer, then you have the traders, and then you have packing sites with different nodes on all the supply chain, and we have afterwards the carbonization plant, and then we can reconnect to the wood. So based on what we analyzed, to bring more transparency is really key to look at the carbonization plant and have a full transparency from the carbonization plant. So how we do it, how we do to bring more transparency to the carbonization plant, this is what we're gonna explain you in our charcoal program. So the Earthworm charcoal program, we work with a lot of members, as mentioned, all over the supply chain, and we deployed the VTTV model all over the supply chain. So our model of change is value, transparency, transformation, verification, as mentioned already, Rubin, and we deployed this all over the supply chain. We work with retailers, importers, traders, and producer. As you can see, there are the same number of people, of companies at each stage of the supply chain. So we try to balance these figures. So we do have a full visibility all over the supply chain. So we use the leverage of retailers to ask for more transparency to the importers, and then bring transformation on the carbonization plant and on the ground. And to try to explain the way we use leverage and the traction of retailer it's really important to talk about engagement. And this is engagement and transparency based of the value. So it's really the key to start doing some changes on the ground. And this is our definition of responsible charcoal. For the last, I think, 7 years, we talk about this. These 4 main criteria when we address the issue of transparency in the whole supply chain, as mentioned previously, very important to check all the nodes of the supply chains, to have connection between the nodes. We focus really on the production, traceability, and the distribution process to get to know how many wood is used to transform and to produce charcoal. We, based on this carbonization plan, we look at the origin of the raw material, so the sustainable management forest, and the wood coming from no deforestation risk forest. And of course, we look at the respect of human rights and health and safety. Here you see a little bit the vision of the supply chain and where we deploy the program at each stage of the supply chain. So as you can see, we really ask all retailers to commit to be engaged on asking for respecting these criteria on transparency, forest, people, and production to have a positive effect on the supply chain. So then we deploy with our supplier, with the supplier, and the retailers ask the suppliers to be more transparent or transparency about the wood sourcing, and then based on that we look at the carbonization plant and at the packing sites. And here we deployed field work over the last 7 years. We did more than 200 visits. And on this field work, Robin will explain more to you how methodology on the ground and how we check these 4 criteria all over the supply chains. Robin, up to you.
Thank you, Pierre. Yes, so as Pierre mentioned, traceability is extremely important. Transparency is extremely important to us, especially back to the carbonization site, because a packing site can gather charcoal from multiple production sites, and usually the production sites are close to the forest source. So our 4 main criteria, as Pierre already mentioned here, we assess the production. We assess the production, so raw material management, what type of technology they use, the bagging system, etc. We do this at both the packing site and the production site of the places we check. We also check the assessment of working conditions. This next part we do both at both at the packing site and the production site, because that is most often where you can have exploitation of people. So health and safety, remuneration, working interviews, etc. Then we assess the traceability of the supply chain. So this is from the forest all the way to the retailer, going through packing and production and packing site. This means how much wood was purchased from the forest, how much is transformed into charcoal, how much is packed, and how much is sold, to make sure the supply chain is complete and verified. Finally, we check the forest to make sure that, as Pierre mentioned, there's no deforestation and no mismanagement of the forest resource.
Many thanks for that. And just a slide, the VTTV model slide to wrap up the approach and the retailer's leverage, the need for transparency and the strategy to ask for transparency. As you can see, the retailer, we ask and recommend our retailers to be engaged in asking for responsible charcoal criteria in the tenders, and asking for transparency to the suppliers. Based on that, we help them to do risk analysis, to look at what are the risks, what we can do, and how we can limit the risk based on the supply chain to have no deforestation and no exploitation risk in their supply chain, or to limit the risk. So our work is not to say it's black or white. It's to really to work with people and to engage step by step. So it's a journey, and based on the journey, there's transformation on the ground. We can monitor the transformation on the ground, as you can see, and we have some afterwards. We can have some communication, some verification. Some people are communicated and QR code through the platform, which is a Charcoal Transparency Initiative, which is a platform to communicate the approach. So that's the overview of what we do. Now we will explain more in detail. Okay. Now we explain more in detail the European charcoal market data, and Lucas will present to you how, let's say, the retailers leverage had impact, and the need for transparency had impact on the market data over the last years. Lucas, up to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pierre. Hello, everyone. The ones who know us, we do this every year. We analyze the European charcoal market data always for the previous year. So in this case, our analysis focuses on 2020, which has been for all of us a impacting year regarding also the COVID crisis. So I would first start off explaining you a bit the European charcoal consumption over imports and over production, to give you a brief understanding of what we talk about. So up top in the light gray, you see European charcoal consumption, which is quite stable between 900,000 to 1 million tons over the last years. In orange, you see imports, and in gray, you see the European domestic production for the EU 28 member countries. We base our analysis on the ITC trade data, as they have a quite holistic data set, which is favored by us. And what you basically see is that the distribution between charcoal imports and charcoal production per year is around in a ratio of 70 to 30%. So we have 70% imports and 30% production, more or less over the same over this period if we take the 2010 to 2020 period. What we also know is that we have not enough responsible charcoal on the market, responsible charcoal, be it verified by us, for example, or under a certification scheme. We do estimate that the ratio here is the opposite. So we have around 30% offer of responsible products and 70% of, let's say, not responsible, let's say unknown origin. And if we look on the consumption levels a bit closer and zoom for year 2020, for the European charcoal consumption 2020, if we zoom in, we see that France and Germany together comprise around 32% of all the charcoal that is consumed in Europe. And this year, we also include the UK here in this data, as they transitioned last year out of the European Union. However, for the sake of the data completeness, we include them here as well. You have a total consumption. We had a total consumption last year of 938,000 tons. And if we look now a bit closer on the main supplying and trading partners for the EU 28, we have the countries Nigeria, Paraguay, Ukraine, Argentina, Cuba, and Namibia listed here for a whole time sequence from 2008 to 2020. So let's say 12 years. And up on the left, you see 1,000 tons. So if we look at Nigeria, for example, we see that we have for the last 12 years a minus of 14%. However, the drop is most recent, the recent drop and most significant, the one from 2019 to 2020, where we see a drop of almost 54%. We see Paraguay charcoal and Argentinian charcoal continuously decreasing, as this is an overall trend. South American charcoal is going out of the European market. So for Paraguay, minus 58%, and for Argentina, minus 85%. And for Ukraine, as the major trading partner for the European Union, we see a plus of 231% in the last 12 years. Cuba as well, 579, and Namibia, the current shooting star, with a plus of 400% in the last years. So markets are changing and markets are developing. And just to sum it up, to look on the import data in terms of relation and who is accounting for what in 2020. So we see that 4 countries alone comprise 62%. It's Ukraine, Nigeria, Cuba, and Namibia. And these 4 countries, we also saw some patterns, some changes in 2020 as Nigerian charcoal dropped of around 9-10% compared to 2019, whereas Ukrainian charcoal gained even more market shares, so +6, Namibia +3, around 13%, also Cuba +3. So these two countries basically buffered what was lost or what was reduced incoming from Nigeria. And as said before, to zoom in and to see a bit the changes in the market pattern, here is a slide for charcoal export and production of Ukraine. In orange, you see the exports, and in gray, you see the production here for the years 2007 till 2020. And here in 2016, we see this massive change in exports as well as production, which is similar to the market overall market pattern, the trend more from tropical towards temperate origin charcoal, and quite increasing. So exports almost increased of +200% in the year from the year 2007 to 2020, and the production increased by around 172% between 2007 and 2019, as we currently do not have production data for 2020. So, and where is all this charcoal from Ukraine going to? 41% goes to Poland, followed by Romania, Belgium, and France. However, the biggest share basically goes to Poland. So, and Poland is the next country. We will zoom in a bit. So we will focus here on the Polish charcoal production over exports, also for the same time period, 2007 to 2020. And here in orange, you see the exports, and in gray, you see the production. Green bars would indicate where the balance was, where we had more production than exports, and red bars indicate where we had more exports than production. And I mentioned already before in the slide of Ukraine here, the shift in 2016, where we had this massive increase in Ukrainian production. We see on the contrary, in Poland, we see a decrease in the following years in production, however, an increase in exports. And these exports are basically met by again, imports. And for example, if you look on the 2020 data here, Ukraine imported 51% of the Polish imports come from Ukraine, followed by Nigeria, 11, 10%, Namibia, and Russia, and so on as the fourth, and also Belgium, also interesting to see. So we see basically, a decreasing production, but an increasing exports. And so these exports are most likely met with imports, so repacking occurs. Therefore, we raise the question, and we consider Poland as a major transit hub for charcoal. 50% of all Polish charcoal imports come from Ukraine. Ukraine also has been sometimes also a bit seen critically and evaluated critically in terms of sustainability and transparency. So this is also interesting to note here. And Nigerian charcoal imports declined by 24%. Also, the overall decline in Nigerian charcoal is visible in the trade data for 2019. As mentioned before, Nigeria has been a major partner of Europe and a major exporter of charcoal to the EU28. And in this slide, I would just briefly like to introduce to you the topic of market opacity and exports despite a charcoal ban. In 2015, Nigeria introduced a charcoal ban, so no further exports were allowed. And in the year 2015, where it still was allowed, you see in orange what the EU reported, and in gray what Nigeria reported as exports. So orange is the EU import data, and dark gray is the Nigeria export data, so it almost matches. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, and even 20. In 20, we see the overall decline. However, we see that basically the EU reported incoming quantities. However, Nigeria did not report any outgoing charcoal. That makes it even harder for us to trace and understand the flows of charcoal going in and out, for example, from Nigeria to Europe. And it's basically an example for the market's opacity. And again, the call for the localization of the carbonization plant. So on average, 111,000 tons of charcoal have entered Europe's internal markets from Nigeria between 2011 and 2020. And depending on the coefficient you deploy, it's linked to between 400,000 to 800,000 tons of wood per year. So to sum it up, European charcoal imports have tripled within the last 20 years. Charcoal imports remain relatively stable. We have 70% imports to 30% domestic production. However, we do see an increase in investments and in capacity building. However, this we currently do not see inside the data. Specifically speaking, Namibia charcoal imports increased, Nigeria decreased, Poland remains a transit hub for charcoal, and Ukraine remains Europe's major supplier. So if we now look on our charcoal bags analysis, which is basically a tool developed by us to monitor changes in the market, which has been introduced in 2015. Yeah, we would like to present to you some analysis we do for the French and German market, focusing on 3 transparency indicators, where we will see similar patterns that I just explained to you, but just before. So what is the bags analysis? So we take a charcoal bag. So we purchase charcoal bags available in the market. We do a measurement of density, apparent density, exact density. For the ones who are familiar with it, wood density allows sort of a classification of also origins, as for example, tropical woods have higher densities than temperate wood species. And then in the third step, we do a visual inspection. So we take several samples from charcoal bags in several depths and look what kind of tree species is it, as the carbonization of charcoal quite nicely keeps or for some tree species, quite nicely keeps the pore structures. You can do it visually as well as using a couple of devices. However, we want to say we are not a laboratory. We developed this methodology 6 years ago to basically engage the charcoal industry in more responsible practices and to find out what's really in the charcoal bag. And nowadays, laboratories offer technical bags analysis and wood recognition services as well. As said before, we quickly want to introduce you 3 main, we call it transparency indicators, and in respect to our time sequence from 2015 to 2021 for Germany and France. Let me just give me two seconds to explain you the transparency indicators a bit. So every year since 6 years, in 2020, we could not do a bags analysis due to the COVID pandemic. We look on declared country of origin, the type of wood, and the certification status of the product, among others. But these are our 3 key indicators. So if you look on the declared country of origin, we basically ask the question, is information about the product's origin written on the bag? So no. On type of wood, we ask, what are the wood tree species inside the bag? Is it temperate, tropical, or mixed origin? And on the certification status, we ask, are the products certified under FSC, PEFC, or any other certification scheme? So we will focus on these 3 indicators, which allow us to then draw some conclusions on the development of the level of transparency on this market. So presentation, we will present you the results in aggregated data for France and Germany in percentage. And here, if we look on the first indicator, so not declared, so the origin of indicated on the bag, basically the question, are information about the product's origin written on the bag, yes or no? The left bars here show you not declared, so no information written, and the right shows you, yes, information written on the bag about the product's origin. And you see, interestingly, till 2019, we see a drop, so minus 22%. So basically, more information was written on the bag about the product's origin. And then in between 2019 and 21, we see this increase of plus 13%. So we basically see that unfortunately the transparency level drops again. So less information written on the bags about the origin of the product. And if we look on the wood species found inside the bag, we see this shift in temperate charcoal and also the shift in demand for more temperate origin charcoal. You see here on the left in orange the temperate samples. In dark gray, you see the tropical samples found, and in light gray, you see the mixed samples found. So this is aggregated data. For 2015 to 2021, we see a plus 21% of temperate samples, which is matching with the developments we see. in general. And we see a decrease in tropical sources as well as a decrease in mixed sources. And the last transparency indicator is the certification stages. And here we see that an increasing level of products, or that more and more products are certified. So if we take 2015 here, this is non-certified products, PFC certified product and FSC certified products found. FSC includes FSC 100% and mixed as aggregated data. We see a drop of non-certified products of 40% and an increase of FSC certified products alone of 35%. So basically, you see here, the year 2015, we had around 60, 65, 70% non-certified products. And now in the year 2021, we see, if we take PFC and FSC together, we see around, we have the same ratio of certified products. So the market really shifted towards certification here. So to sum it up, 2 out of 3 transparency indicators show an increase in transparency. The share of certification increased and the share of tropical wood decreased on the German and French market. 1 transparency indicator shows a mixed result because here, this is the one with the declared origins. In 2019, we see the reversed effect. After the increase of transparency, now we see an increase in non-declared origins on the back, which leaves us to say that we need more transparency and more transparency engagement on this topic, as the consumer should know where the product he's buying is coming from. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Lucas. Many thanks for this very clear presentation indeed. It's really important. If the declared country of origin is decreasing and certification is increasing, it doesn't mean as well that we do need to have transparency on the wood, really on the wood origin to be sure that the product can be considered as responsible. That's really a key element of this, and we really encourage all the industry to be engaged. And it's really the engagement of key players, of the buyers, to ask for more transparency that bring a positive effect on customs data. As you can notice, it brings market changes. It brings also impact on the ground, and we hope it brings positive effect on the supply chain for nature and people. This is really the aim and the DNA of First One to act for that. And in order to do so and to keep on asking, always the same thing, asking for transparency to bring less opacity, we developed many tools, and we will present. Would like to present you a bit the tools and the new version of the tools, because we launched a new version. Not big, no big change, but we will highlight it. So we launched in 2019 charcoaltransparency.org, and the aim of this platform is to answer to the question: do you know where your product, where your charcoal is coming from? So to reconnect to the charcoal bags and to have traceability at each charcoal bag, so that you can, in clicking on all product, you can look at most product on the French and the German market. You can have access to most of the charcoal bags present on the site. More than around 370 charcoal bags are referenced into the platform, and on this you can have access to have information about the true transparency. So it's really a beyond certification methodology, and it's also a possibility to connect fieldwork with QR code based communication. So this QR code and this field based work is only for our members in the services. So you have 2 aspects. You have the public things, which is open transparency for all, and you have services, which is for members. We'll go a little bit into details in the next slides. So one of the new things asked by many of you, many of retailers and also producers, importers, is to have a comparison page. So now you can filter, you can export the data into Excel, you can filter by field score, you can export it by transparency index, you can filter by country to get to know, let's say, who is most engaged. So we hope that this comparison page will create, let's say, competitive move to move on more transparency, more responsibility, and to have positive effect on the supply chain. So we really encourage you to have a look, and it's live. It's on the Charcoal Transparency / compare.php. You can have access to this. So do not hesitate to have a look and to try to play with the tool. It works. Second innovation is on the next slide will be the new. So as we really insisted during this presentation to insist on the location of the production site, we put the location of the production site live on all product pages. So now all the consumer can see where the product is coming from. So we still have a lot of unknown so far. So a lot of things to be done again, to ask all the industry to commit on to be transparent in the location of the production site, and also to repeat it again, knowing the production site means knowing the real origin of the product. And you see on the right side, the scoring. So the field score, is for our members and is dedicated to fieldwork, is related to fieldwork. And I think here we can also and we will jump so afterwards to the member, what are the services related to members, and I will hand it over to Lucas to present a little bit the charcoal survey launched last year, which is free, and it is open for everyone to ask for more transparency. Lucas, so over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just so the question is maybe for some of you are asking, so how do I get my products online if I want to upload my products, of course, on this platform? And we, for this reason and for others, among others, we developed the Charcoal Transparency Survey, an online tool to upload charcoal products on our platform. As Pierre mentioned, it's open for all. And we only asked a couple of informations about the company, supply chain, and product information. We then evaluated to, through a risk analysis, through a risk matrix, and then we published your product as well as our evaluation online on the platform. And for retailers, this can be understood as a support in risk analysis of products and suppliers, where you can easily see, okay, this product has which score on the platform. So just a bit more detail, you log in, you access the survey, you declare information, you declare your product information as well, you agree on the terms and conditions, and you upload the information. You get your scoring afterwards, and you see your product online with the scoring on charcoaltransparency.org. And new, and to show a bit what is behind the things we assess, here below you see how do I read these indicators, and we call this score the transparency index. So what is the transparency index based off? It's based off on our 4 criteria: transparency, forest, production, and social. Here you see the different values for the final note that goes into the final evaluation. For transparency, we would ask, for example, an analysis of the declared information, which we ask for in an Excel file. So we analyze these information. Also the corruption perception index in the country of origin of the product, on raw material. Forest, we look on certification, the deforestation risk associated in the country of origin. Production, we look, for example, on type of raw material used, sawmill residues, roundwood, etc. And then respected workers' rights in the country of origin. So is there a certification scheme present? And based on these indicators, we come to a final score, which range from A, B, C, D, or E. And this is the link then to the services we give for our members, that beside the transparency index, which you would see here of A, B, C, D, E, we of course have our QR code based communication. And this communication is based on our field assessment. So for every field assessment we do, for every supply chain verified, members can get a QR code, which they can then print on the respective supply chain. Which they can print on the back, connected to the verified and respective supply chain. And linked to this, we also offer the service of a product story, where we can then even write in more detail about the product's origin, the history, the production, as well as the evaluation. Yeah, sorry, this was. Yeah. You want to take over?
Oh, you can go
Yeah.
on.
And on the last point, for our members also, we offer the member access page where everybody who's joining our initiative gets a login. You can describe your company, you present your company profile online, you can create your own products, you can download your QR codes, you see your statistics, so how many people clicked how many times my product, and you see, of course, a list of your products online. And I think with this slide, I will hand it over to Pierre.
Yeah, many thanks, Lucas. Indeed, you can create also your product live directly into this access member. So many thanks for this. So we wanted to present you indeed the new things, what happened on the CTI, and really to insist on we really want to insist on a few points to close this webinar, at least this presentation. We want to insist on the leverage and the traction of the retailers, and using, for instance, the survey to ask for more transparency could have really positive effect, because it will enable to limit the risk of the retailers and to ask just ask the industry to be more transparent. And many people are engaged into this, but we do have to keep on pushing all together on more transparency to have positive effect on nature and people. So just to mention on the positive effect on the market, so it has increasing demand, yet if there are more responsible are demanding in demanding of the European market, there are still challenges. So lack of responsible sourcing, there's a lot still 70. So some imports are traced and are responsible, some others are not. And here we do have to look at it and to also help and support and raise funds. A lot of funds have been raised, but a lot of needs investment. We still need investment on better technology and supporting developing also countries to get access to less polluting energy. Some people are engaged into that. We really encourage this move because it's really important. So it's not only the industry, but also institution, public funds, banks have to be involved into this process. We want to insist again on the real origin of the project. It's still not well communicated. Having a decrease of declared origin is something that is not, for us, not acceptable. And it is something that needs to be changed because it has positive. We know that transparency has positive effect on this industry. So let's proceed and act. And of course, there is increase of certified product, yet even certification did great job. You still have to increase the transparency level. That's really important for us as well. And also we notice a decrease of tropical charcoal, and the European charcoal, let's say the temperate wood keeps on increasing. We want to insist on the three main aspects to conclude. So that's the main message we would like to sum up. And here we really want to please communicate your transparency on the bags. So put the wood spaces. The consumer needs to know what is the ingredient inside the charcoal bags, and it's wood. That's part of the forest. And in order to reconnect to the forest, you need to get the country of origin, the location of carbonization plant. So having these elements are key. And this is really, we really encourage all buyers to ask for this element into the tenders. Look at this and get access to the carbonization plant. It's really important. We insist on a retailer impact, retailer leverage to ask for more transparency. Pursue your commitment and please be engaged. It has positive effect. Also for that, you have some tools. We develop some tools. You are free to use it or not, but at least they are existing and they are created thanks to our members and thanks to some retailers, some importers, some traders are supporting it. And we want to insist also on two points on the institution as well. So that it has to be included into the UTR annex. So we ask for it for years, but nothing happened so far. So if you can spread this message, well, it's really welcome. And the second aspect also that if there is some revision of the norm, it has to include more transparency criteria. So that's the main message we would like to communicate. I really want to thank Lucas